Marvel's Spider-Man PS4 is awesome, one if not my favorite game of the year right now, like a tie with God of War at the moment. And one of the main reasons is the combat that is as deep as I hoped, thanks to the different enemies you encounter that require different moves to take out. The environment you can use to your advantage, like the rooftops, but mostly thanks to the 8 gadgets that add all new ways to toy with your enemies and are really required to be the best Spider-Man you can be. So let's take a look at all of them in this video while I show you why this system works so well as well. If you enjoyed that, then a like would be super appreciated, and let's go. Let's start with one of my favorite gadgets, the impact web that you unlock pretty early on in the game, and it's basically a shotgun blast that makes the enemies directly stick to the wall or the ground if they are down. This gadget shows you how important it is to look at the environment, because if the enemy is close to the wall, then it will be a guaranteed one-hit KO, while otherwise it will just blast the enemies away, not defeating them with one of your shots. Luckily, you can upgrade this gadget to get a better knockback effect, so that even enemies that are far away from the wall will still be webbed. In many games I played, you can be fine without using any of the special abilities, so you can just use some regular attacks and get through the game fine. So just use these special abilities because you got them, so why not? In Spider-Man PS4 though, using gadgets in a smart way is crucial to completing some of the challenges that net you an extra reward. The web bomb is a great example because it explodes and hits surrounding enemies, making them trapped in a web. So then you can web throw them by holding the triangle button, while without a web you cannot throw them at all. So there are multiple ways to web the enemies, but with the web bomb you do more enemies at once, so it's really smart to use that for completing a challenge where you, for example, need to web throw a lot of enemies. We already saw the web bomb in action in trailers that Sony released or gameplay, but we never saw the concussive blast in action in preview videos. So now that changes, and I can say that I really enjoy using it, especially on the rooftops. Again, showing you that the environment or the location you play in plays a huge part in using the gadgets. So later on in the game I thought, why not blast the enemies off the rooftops without having to engage in a fight? This is especially nice against the heavily armed Sable soldiers that otherwise require a ton of punches to take out. You have to aim that one though, but with the spider drone gadget you can literally sit back and let these small red robots do the work for you. Especially if you fully upgraded them, then it namely deals more damage. So deploy these little bots and they will immediately start shooting at nearby enemies. Even shield enemies will get hit by the blue beams. And this is really nice. It shows you the variety in gadgets that Spider-Man PS4 has as well. And you can all have them active at one time, since with the gadget wheel you can just select one of the 8 gadgets immediately. You don't have to switch ones out in the inventory menu. If you use one of them, you have to perform a takedown or other trick to get a new gadget back. Upgrading the gadgets will give you more charges though, so you can use them more often before you have to wait to get them back. There's one gadget though that you can always use that refills itself over time, and those are the regular web shooters you start the game with. Not only nice to use them against the brutes, to web them so you can punch them, something you can by the way use these web shooters for throughout the whole game, so that's really cool. Insomniac found a way to make the weakest gadget that you start the game with still useful later on in the game, showing you once again how good this gadget system is. You can also use the web shooters in a stealth encounter to attract enemies to another location, so you can then take them out without having other people noticing. Same can be said about the tripmine in the game, that can be used to take out a lot of enemies in a combat encounter, but also to pull 2 enemies to each other without having other enemies being aware of what is going on. The question is, do you shoot the tripmine onto the enemy or on an object in the world? You really have to think a lot like this during combat with these gadgets to get the most use out of them, so that makes the combat also extra fun. The gadget you can craft on level 25 is the suspension matrix. That is likely also the gadget you will get the last. It launches the enemies into the air for a short period of time, so you can then use a ton of air combat moves and defeat them more easily. The air combat moves are also nice to build up some focus, because it goes way faster than if you hit the enemies on the ground, giving another use to this pretty cool gadget, because obviously it's really cool to launch enemies in the air all the time. The gadget I used the least is the electric web that stuns enemies, even brutes, with a shock blast. And I can totally see why people would like it, to create an opening so you can hit the enemies, but for me I prefer the other gadgets instead. And I totally think that because of the variety and the amount of gadgets, the playstyle of people will vary. There are really multiple ways to play Spider-Man, and that is really awesome. So like I said, you can use all the gadgets at once, but it's smarter to focus on some of them them so you get those back more easily. I'm surprised by how deep this system goes and how rewarding it is to find a cool tactic that works. I hope you see now why I like this gadget system a lot. It's maybe not as over the top as the tools we saw in other Insomniac games like Ratchet & Clank and Sunset Overdrive. Like, these gadgets make sense for Spider-Man as a character, but they are still like a ton of fun to use and they add a ton of variety to the gameplay. I'll of course share some tips on what I think are the best gadgets and how you can use them the best, but I cannot do my tips videos just yet because of the embargo. I of course got a review copy from Sony, so I agreed to an embargo, and that says that I can only share my tips videos like closer to launch. Totally fine with that. Keep an eye out for that. For now, it was nice to finally show you all the gadgets in action and show you my review of this system and why I love it so much. So totally subscribe for way more Spider-Man PS4 content. I will have way more tips and tricks up closer to release, and of course I will keep you up to date on everything that is going on in the game. I just launched a feature where you can support me for a small fee per month by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button to, for example, get early access to my scheduled videos, like Spider-Man content of course as well. Like this video to support the channel, check out my video on all the suits in the game, and I will speak to you next time. Goodbye!